Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Performing Arts Global Exchange Roster Artist Share. Really appreciate you joining us today so that we can share with you about the Performing Arts Global Exchange program. While you're on the call, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. As we go around the room today and hear about each of the artists that are taking part in Performing Arts Global Exchange this year, you'll have a chance to ask a question of every agent or artist as they're presenting. So feel free to just drop those questions in the chat so that we can call on you. We do have captions available on this call. And then as you are working with us on this grant, if you have any accommodation needs that aren't being met, please reach out to me to provide those additional accommodations for you. So for today, I'm just going to briefly talk about Mid-Atlantic Arts. We'll do a very high-level overview of the PAGE program, what it is and what it isn't. We'll hear from the roster artists, and then if you want to stick around at the end, I'll do kind of a grant timeline and process for folks who may be new to the PAGE program. If you have worked with this program in the past, there are no major changes to its structure, but I will be going over that at the very end once we've heard from folks, from all the artists. So let's keep it moving to the more interesting part of the webinar. About Mid-Atlantic, we are one of the 6 regional arts organizations. So most of our grant making happens within this red area on the East Coast. But Performing Arts Global Exchange is actually a national grant program. So this is open to nonprofit performing arts organizations based anywhere in the United States. You do not have to be in our region to receive grant funds from this program. So then just a high-level overview of the PAGE grant. This is an annual program for performing arts presenters that are based anywhere in the United States or its territories, as I've shared. And we provide presenters with a grant of up to 50% of the artist fee when they contract a curated roster artist to present a public performance and a community engagement activity in their community. So something I need to make very clear with this program is presenters only receive grant funds when booking one of the 5 curated artists. Those artists will be sharing their information here shortly. This program does not support presenters that are interested in booking, an artist of their choice that's not on our roster. This program only supports presenters that book off of our curated roster. And then the tours for these artists will take place at some point between the 1st of July this summer, 2026, and the end of December 2027. So whether you're still booking your 2026-2027 season or potentially looking ahead to fall of 2027, it's possible that you may be able to receive a grant. It all just kind of depends on when most of the interest coalesces for a specific artist as they start to put together their actual tour dates. And then just some eligibility requirements. I hit that first bullet point plenty of times already. You do need to be a 501c3 nonprofit. So, or you can also be a unit, state, local, or a federally recognized Indian tribal government. So if you're a municipal theater, if you're a festival that is put on by a city, if you're a state college, that would be a unit, state, or local government. Lastly, you also just need to be in good standing with Mid-Atlantic Arts, meaning you've turned in all of your final reports or any other paperwork items that may be due to Mid-Atlantic. That's not usually an issue for most folks. So this is the list of artists that we have on the call, and we're going to dive in first with Birdie by Agrupación Señor Serrano. So joining here. So let's move to those folks. Let me just grab you and add you to the screen. And as they join, I would just say that they are currently on tour actually with this work in the US. They just completed a very successful run as part of Under the Radar in New York and are now in California. So Go ahead and start sharing, Eva.
Okay, we're here. Can we start, Andrew?
Yes, yep, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, perfect. So we are Agrupación Señor Serrano. It's a contemporary theater company based in Barcelona since
I'm sorry.
2006. So it's 20 years now that we've been working together. We premiere our shows and we tour them mainly internationally. And we create our shows from scratch. So this means that we create everything, the dramaturgies, the props, the scenography, etc. And our shows are usually based on unsolved social issues from nowadays, such as the coexistence between communities, the housing crisis, the relationship between facts, reality, truth, and manipulation, the breakdown of romantic love, or migration, such as the case of Birdie, that we will speak about it later. Our approach to these subjects is not documentary, it's not direct, but we rather prefer to have metaphors and multi-layered dramaturgies to address these subjects. And we combine this research on subjects also on a research on language on stage, and mainly on the use of live feed video and new media. We also use the handling of objects and props and scale models on stage, detached performance, and in the case of Birdie, also we have an English voiceover, which makes it very accessible for American audiences. And this is mainly what regards the company. So I would ask Andrew if he can play the teaser of the show and to have a grasp about it before we talk about it.
Absolutely can do.
It takes time to start deciphering an image. It's not so easy. It requires an effort. Perhaps that is why it's so unusual, because people always tend to take the easy way out. To trust on what they see without questioning what lies behind. And people trust images, because putting them into question would mean putting into question the comfort of their own existence.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So this is the teaser, and you have seen many of the things I told before about the kind of language that we use, live video, objects, etc. And I now just wanted to tell you a little bit about the contents of the show. It's a show about migration, but we take a lateral approach. We started the show from this picture that you are seeing now. And what you're seeing is some migrant people on the fence of a golf course, but it happens to be the fence in the border between Morocco and a Spanish enclave in the north of Africa called Melilla. So let's say that from that fence to the other side, it's Africa, it's Morocco, and this side, it's Spain, it's the European Union. So watching this picture, we thought that these people look like birds on a cable. And we liked it a lot to think about migration, not only about people, but also about birds and any other kind of animals, no? To make this idea of migration more universal and not so concrete. In the other hand, as you see, there are some golf players, and there is this move on golf, which is called birdie, which is like putting the ball in the hole, one cup under the par, no? And we connected this idea of the birds with the birdie on golf, and then immediately also with Alfred Hitchcock's film The Birds. So we had like these three subjects that could address things like migrations of birds and animals, and therefore also of human beings, like the movement of commodities. We were thinking of the golf balls that arrived there, that probably were made in China, and their way to this golf course was easier than the people's. So this idea of mixing human migration with commodity import-export was also very interesting for us. And then regarding the film, The Birds, we were very interested on the main theme of the film, which is fear. No? The fear that these birds create on the observers, no? On the community, that it's like receiving them. And therefore, mixing all these things and putting on stage this idea of multi-camera live editing projections and objects and more than 2,000 small miniature animals to create this physical installation, this artistical installation that we capture and project live, creating this live cinema feeling story. And as we use all these kind of elements, that's why it makes a very light production to tour. But to talk about that, I let Eva to tell you more details.
Hello, I'm Eva. I'm the touring agent of the company. And to engage in Powstock, the lighten part of the touring is based on very light set that we translate from one place to another in 3 suitcases. So it's very friendly, let's say, to the environment. At the same time, we are 4 to 5 people on tour. And to mention also, and to thank Andrew for the introduction, that we are currently on tour, and we just came from New York, and we are putting our set to the UCLA stage to present this weekend. And the upcoming weekend, that's the last weekend of January, we will be presenting in Oz Arts in Tennessee, Nashville. And to fulfill a little bit the information is that the company does in all the circumstances we do audience engagement activities. That means workshops, master classes, or talks with the audience, that we have different formats depending on time that we have and the ability of the engagement itself. So that leads me to thank to the Mid-Atlantic Arts for their trust to have us, and you for joining us for this talk. And I leave this last 2 minutes for the questions, maybe that you can have related to the production.
Thank you, Eva. Any questions from folks on the call? Feel free to unmute, type them in the chat, etc. if you have any for the company. I will share. I got to see this piece while it was in New York. Yeah, can you share the runtime?
Yeah, it's one hour, 1 hour 5. For the setting up, just if it's interesting for you, we need 14 to 15 hours.
As well as it's a couple of tables that the venue needs to provide, and then this particular like flooring too, that you provide instructions on how to get that.
Yeah, as we're a very light company, what Eva was saying, we just travel with 1 suitcase per performer, let's say. So they travel with us on the airplanes or on trains or whatever we use. And then we ask, theaters some stuff, but it's some stuff that usually they already have on theaters, such as platforms and video projectors or things like that. Are there particular months we are doing? Well, we tour with this all the year round. So it would be interesting, yes, to find some presenters more or less in the same period of the year.
We also have some engagements on the table. So we will be very happy to relate to them and also find a sustainable touring proposal for all of us, meaning to engage different partners in order to achieve that the numbers and the dates.
Just to add to this, just to say that this show, it's unfortunately from 2016, so it has 10 years. We've been touring with it for 10 years. And I say unfortunately because the subject doesn't change, or even it's getting worse every time. So, and we are used to touring internationally. We have been touring with this show all around the world. And so we are very friendly performers and technicians for technicians all around.
Laura, I see your question about the facility or AV requirements. We do have the tech requirements listed up on our website, or if you reach out to Eva at the email here as well, you can get the tech requirements either way.
Okay.
Reach out to Eva, if you have a concern there, and see if it's something that could be worked. If there's, just like a couple aspects that might be a bit of a stretch for you, definitely reach out to Eva and have that conversation. I do want to keep us moving through to the next one. Definitely, if folks are looking at fall 2027, connect with Kai. It'd be great if we could, even out of this call, come up with a group of folks who are kind of interested in the same time period. And I know that they have interest from at least a couple of venues already. So but let's move on to the next group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we've got Antonio Lizana here, and we'll have the lovely folks at Riot share about Antonio.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam, and I work with Riot Artists. First, I just wanted to take a second to thank everyone for being here. I'm grateful to Andrew and all of Mid-Atlantic Arts for the opportunity to share a little bit more about this project. So if you're not familiar, Antonio Lizana is a remarkable jazz saxophonist, flamenco singer, and composer. He's from Cadiz, which is a city on the coast of southwestern Spain, which actually happens to be one of Europe's oldest cities. I believe it was founded by the Phoenicians as a trading post and settled in 1100 BC. I bring this up because I find it really shapes a lot of Antonio's style, this sort of ancient woven sound of Andalusian soul and spirit. It survived all this time, through all these years. It's still alive, it's still breathing. And Antonio's crafted a really unique and distinct fusion of this tradition, as well as incorporating elements of experimentation that is just really captivating. It's all really exemplary of the sort of deep creative desire that he possesses. So what you can expect from his performances, they are immersive, emotionally charged, taking us from the roots of flamenco music to contemporary jazz. He's traveled all around the world performing with his quintet in spaces like Womex, South by Southwest, Jazz Ahead. They even made an appearance some years ago at NPR's Tiny Desk. He's collaborated with countless artists like Alejandro Sanz, Snarky Puppy, Marcus Miller. He's not just a musician, but a storyteller and cultural ambassador. And it's really just something you have to see live. It's the kind of music that will get you up on your feet. So we can go ahead and watch the video now.
baixa, da azúcar cande, prima da azúcar cande, la birri chica, la birri chica, la birri chica, la birri grande, la birri chica, la birri grande.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Like fire in your chest. So regarding community engagement or any kind of like educational workshops for this tour, we are really interested in creating more of a cultural exchange than just a performance. So really interested in any types of master classes or workshops. Antonio would be able to speak about Romani culture, the origins of flamenco song and dance. He could do kind of more of like a history kind of perspective or more of like a physical in-person kind of exploration of those topics, and then some answers to questions that you might have already that I definitely did not answer. Touring period wise, we're looking at September and October of 2026 this year, and then mid-March through late April of 2027. Tech-wise, they travel and perform as a quintet, which includes a flamenco dancer that you saw who also does backup vocals. We've got a pianist, a percussionist, and a bassist. The setup's pretty typical, what you can expect. The musicians just like to be pretty close together, which is, I think, the only thing to mention. Antonio speaks English pretty well, so no need for a translator on site. And yeah, if you're interested in Antonio, you have any questions, feel free to ask now. You can reach out to me or Bill Smith, but I'll leave the rest of the time for questions if anyone has anything.
Any questions from folks?
No possibility of fall 2027?
As of now, that's just what we have for the dates, fall of this year and then spring of next year.
But it never hurts, I would say, to share your interest and the time frame that you're interested in with the agent, and hopefully something can come of it.
When do you start in September?
September, we'd be looking at late September, like the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
This may be an obvious answer, but is this only indoors? Is Antonio ever on an outdoor stage?
I'd assume he'd be able to, the performance could be translated well outside. I definitely think that this show would do better standing room or having some opportunity for a mix of both, just because I don't really see how you can listen to this and just sit in your seat.
Thanks.
Then we do have one question in the chat that just joined. Do the musicians travel with instruments, or do you need a full backline on site?
I believe that we would need a full backline on site. But again, it's a pretty standard setup. Nothing too crazy.
Just to clarify on that particular one, I imagine, of course, he brings his own saxophone, but keyboard player would need something. Does the bass player need bring his own instrument, just need an amp? I'm assuming we would need to provide a piano or keyboard and also a drum kit. Is the drummer bring his own cymbals, or is it? I mean, I know there's a link for the tech writer, but just that general idea would be helpful.
Sure. I believe that the drummer would bring his own cymbals and that the bassist would have his own axe and that they would have the saxophone he would bring. But when we're talking about a piano or like an amp, full drum set, that's what we're looking for, a backline.
Here I am talking with the Mute On Classic. So that's great. Thank you all. Thank you, Sam, for the presentation. And yeah, Bill dropping in the chat here that Antonio has performed at large outdoor venues around here. So just good to know that that could certainly be a possibility as well. But yeah, let's move to our next artist here. Oh, not that. We've got Lucibela on from now based in Lisbon, Portugal, but from Cabo Verde. And we have Constanza, her agent, as well as the artist Lucibella on the call with us. So I'm going to take down the screen here quick so we can listen to both of them. Take it away, Constanza.
Hello, everyone. I want to start by thanking Mid-Atlantic Arts for granting the page grant to Lucibella, one of our amazing artists on our roster. Lucibella is a Cape Verdean singer and cultural ambassador, widely recognized as one of the leading voices of contemporary Morna and Coladeira. Deeply rooted in the musical traditions of Cape Verde, her work honors the legacy of artists such as Cesare Évora, while bringing modern and sensibility to this rich repertoire. Through her music, Lucibella preserves and revitalizes Cape Verdean musical heritage, sharing stories of identity, love, and resilience with audiences around the world. Lucibella has toured the United States twice. Her first tour was in 2019, and then she returned to her second tour in 2022. She first showcased at the Atlantic Music Expo in 2018 in Cape Verde, where a music critic from All Things Considered attended her live performance, and had her first record review on NPR back in 2019. Then she showcased in 2019 in Womex. She has recorded 3 albums, Lago Umbilical in 2018, Jer in 2022, and Mora Antigua in 2024. Her work extends beyond the stage through meaningful community engagement activities, and this includes educational workshops on Cape Verdean music and song traditions, conversations around cultural heritage, intimate performances paired with artist talks and outreach events. So someone is talking in the background somewhere. So the upcoming touring periods supported by this grant will take place one in July and October this year, and one in March and April of 2027. The touring party includes 7 people total, 5 musicians on stage, and 2 crew members, a road manager and a sound engineer. Thanks again to Mid-Atlantic Arts, and I don't know what you like to do now, Andrew. If you wanna play the video of Lucibella.
Yeah, we can play the video now and then pitch it over to Lucibella to share a little bit more.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Constanza.
Palos de me só Amger cresceu, amger amor Amger nu, amger cubi sobe Pa matam fombo e procurar E pos palos de me só Boe, paz, boe, ternura Boe, perla, formosura Amger cresceu, amger amor Amger nu, amger cubi só Boe, paz, boe, ternura Amger cresceu, amger amor, amger nu, amger cubiçó. A minha jeju flatinfla, jeju flatinfla, jeju flatinfla, jeju flatinfla, jeju flatinfla, jeju fla, jeju flatinfla, jeju flatinfla. Jeju flatinfla, jeju flatinfla, jeju flatinfla, jeju fla.
Right, and I don't want to listen to that too long because you all can listen to that video later because we have Lucibella here on the call with us. So Lucibella, why don't you share a little bit yourself about your music history, whatever comes to mind.
Yes, of course. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Mid-Atlantic Art, for this opportunity. My name is Lucibella, and I'm a singer of traditional Cape Verdean music. I have lived in Portugal for 10 years, and in Cape Verde we have many rhythms, but I sing too. Morna, which I can say it's our queen of music, a calmer and more melancholic rhythm that it's already an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. And Coladera, which is a more dancing, vibrant rhythm, a rhythm that people like dancing with us. My group consists in 4 musicians. They play guitar, piano, cavaquinho, and drums. I changed one of these musicians because in the video we have 2 guitars, but now we have 1 guitar and 1 piano. I have already sung in the United States and I love so much. I hope to have more opportunities to take my art, my culture for different stage. And that's it. And I leave the rest with Constanza because you see my English is not so good yet. But thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks for joining us today, Lucibella.
Thank
you. So I'm wondering if anyone.
Yeah, any questions from folks? Laura, I see a hand raised from Laura.
I have a question. First of all, Lucibella, your English is beautiful, so please don't feel like it's lacking in any way. You sound wonderful. And your music's lovely too. And I have a question for Costanza, which is, you mentioned March, April 2027. Anything later in the summertime?
Yeah, but I don't think that, to be honest, the grant will extend because we're using the page grant, to cover some of the expenses for this year. But she will be available to tour.
Okay, Andrew, though I think we clarified that the page grant goes through the end of the year, December, correct?
Correct. We can support engagements that take place through the end of 2027, through the end of December 2027. I'm thinking, Constanza, that lines a bit here, but you might already have quite a bit of interest. And so you already have quite a bit of interest for both of those touring dates. And so that might use up the grant funds, kind of dedicating it to those regions. But Laura, I'd say still reach out and see if something can come of it or if it's added.
Okay.
In that region.
Okay.
Right. Is that right, Constanza?
Can you please repeat? Can you say that again, Andrew?
I think that a tour that you are currently allocating tour funds to those kind of two dates, kind of fall of 2026 and spring of 2027. And so additional legs may come together later, but you don't expect have enough funding to support it.
That is correct.
Yeah. So I'd say still reach out and share that interest, though.
I am going to do that. Thank you so much for your help.
Constanza, can you please repeat the dates for 2026?
For 2026, October?
October 2026. Oh, okay.
Correct.
So nothing in September.
I can send you an email and we can talk about details and when and routing and everything else.
That'll be great. Because if we can have it this year, the grant stretches till the end of 2027. We can definitely make 2027 work. Anyway, but let's take this offline. Thank you.
Perfect. You're very welcome.
I have Constanza's email back up on the screen here, so you can take that down if you'd like to reach out and discuss possible tour windows. And then Kathleen asks, did I also hear July 2026? I think July is what Laura was asking about, Kathleen, that right now the dates as they're coming together currently are kind of October of 2026 and kind of spring of 2027 currently. But always good to share interest and timeframes that work for you. So if there is a grouping of presenters that are interested, maybe something.
Yeah, at the moment there's a group of presenters interested in July, and so that just came up right after APUP.
Okay.
So the two initial and the two first periods we had reserved were October and then the end of March, beginning of April of next year. But this is a new period we're adding to her touring.
Okay, well, let's take all additional questions offline for just reach out directly to Constanza. And then we just for time need to keep moving forward to the next group here, which is Pedro Pastor y los Locos Descalzos. So go ahead, Marina, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and everyone for your interest. Pedro is very young. He's only 30 years old, but he has published 5 albums. The last 2 were produced by Gustavo Guerrero, Augusto Bracho, which is the musical director of Natalia Lafourcade. I don't know if you know her, from Chile. And the next album that is out this February includes collaborations by Silvio Rodriguez from Cuba, Messier Periné from Colombia, Chico César from Brazil, Pedro Pastor is one of the most well-known singer-songwriters right now from his generation in Spain. And he's also very popular in Latin America because he has been touring a lot there. And he's the son of folk singer-songwriter Luis Pastor and nephew of Pedro Guerra. And despite his young age, he has over 20 years on the stage, and he has performed more than 600 concerts in more than 17 countries. The show is pretty fun and very energetic. So although people don't understand Spanish, doesn't matter. They connect very well with the audience. And as for the music styles, it combines African music, cumbia, funk, flamenco, blues, Latin American folklore. You can play, Andrew, a bit so that they listen.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Bailando me estremecí, bailando me empoderé, bailando yo me advertí, salvaje y libre. Fuera yo, tú me y fuera yo. Bailabas y te reías, bailabas y así te hallabas, bailando y besando el día, te desencadenabas, bailabas, te divertías, bailabas, te conectabas a lo que no conocías, de lo que en ti ya estaba, bailando yo para mí, mi cuerpo en una espiral, mi mente en un colibrí, mi alma sin gravedad, bailando tú para ti, tu cuerpo en un manantial, tu mente lejos de aquí, tu alma sin gravedad. Baila, baila, baila como si lo fueran a prohibir, como si no importara lo que fueran a decir, como si no importara nada, como si no importara. Lo llevamos
I'm
dentro y
just
siempre
gonna
se le
skip forward to the
quiera, todo
next
lo que
track
baile,
here.
todo lo que mueva, todo lo que enseñe, todo lo que sueñe. Hombre y mujer, todo lo que ande, todo lo que ladre, todo lo que quiera, todo lo que baile, todo lo que mueva, todo lo que enseñe, todo lo que sueñe. Tira la moneda a ver qué sale y tira el dado, vaya a ver qué sale también y tira ya que estamos aquí. La cama por la ventana y vámonos a dormir al jardín, a reír porque si hace...
Enough.
Thank you, Andrew. And some of the topics of the lyrics are LGBTQ plus rights, like in this song, the last song that we listened to, freedom of any kind, immigrant rights, very important now in the US, Native American rights. He's very critical, for example, with the Spanish colonization of the Native Americans, and a commitment to historical memory about the fascist repression of Franco in Spain. I don't know if you know about him, but he was a dictator. But the lyrics apply to other fascist situations, no? So it's very popular among young people and also people of all ages, no? And the traveling crew is the 4 artists on stage is Pedro, who plays the classical guitar and the electric guitar, and then the 3 band members, Los Locos Descalzos is the name of the group, is 1 electric guitar, a classical guitar, Cuban 3, a bass and percussion. And then there's the audio engineer that is traveling from Spain, and me as a tour manager. And as for the backline, is they only need the percussion set. They bring all the guitars and the bass. Because the idea, if we can, is to do it, to travel with a band. And then as for the educational activity, it can be, well, we are open to suggestions, but the idea is to do a Q&A before the shows or after, but before would be better, I think. Or we can do a presentation of some cultural aspects of Spanish music or any aspect of the culture, and I could help them because I didn't tell you, but apart from doing this like as a side job, I teach Spanish, Spanish language and culture in different universities. Right now I am in Spain in a university called CEU. But I have been teaching for 8 years in the US in Brown, UCLA, and the University of Memphis. So the idea is that I would help them because their English is very basic, but they can communicate, no? The tentative tour periods, at first we were thinking about, the idea was August 2026, but we are thinking about if we confirm enough dates, we will do August. But if we, because everyone is returning to the offices these days, we are waiting not to see, but if it's not possible because we don't have enough dates now, then we will do, well, apart from August, January and February 2027, and also next summer, like July and August on 2027. Because we have seen many presenters already had their season organized, no? And thank you. If you have some questions, I would be happy to answer.
Yeah, let's open it up. Any questions from folks on the call? I've just put back up Marina's email, so you can take that down, or it's on the website as well, along with the tech requirements, etc. Yeah, any questions from those in attendance? I've got, does he do school shows? Marina, do they have any educational experience with younger audiences?
They can do. Usually they don't do that, but they can do. I think it's fun also for young people. So I think it's a possibility. Yes.
Is there a specific age range that you're thinking of?
I think it's better with older students, no? But
Okay.
they do any age.
Great. Okay. Great. Yeah. Looks like they do all at the Grenade Center. So yeah, other final questions? Otherwise, we'll keep us moving. You can reach out to Marina if you have additional questions later on. Seeing no raised hands, I'll move it on to our last group of the day, Danza Solemnis by Cristina Cazorla. So, Justine, why don't you start sharing?
Hi, can you hear me okay? I'm coming to you from O'Hare Airport in Chicago.
We can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Great, great. Okay. So this is the Cristina Cazorla company. And Cristina Cazorla is I think maybe I can give a background. In Spain, when you decide to study dance, you can study classical dance, you can study contemporary dance, or you can study what they call Spanish dance. Spanish dance is a compendium of different styles that are essentially native to Spain. So within that education, you learn all of the folkloric dances, you learn flamenco, of course, you learn classical Spanish, and you learn Escuela Bolera. Escuela Bolera is a style of dance that was created. You might be hearing, sorry, I see that people are asking to others to mute. You might be hearing other people in the airport talking around me. So I'm sorry, I can't make that any clearer. Yeah. And so anyway, Escuela Bolera is a style of Spanish dance that you can say is kind of the Spanish version of ballet. It is a dance that was danced in the courts of Spain in the 1700s. It's a really beautiful style of Spanish dance that will remind a lot of people who love ballet of ballet, but it's not quite that. It's quite a bit more Spanish. It's not performed with point shoes, it's performed with a soft shoe, but you have a lot of those beautiful jumps and arm and leg extensions that you see in ballet. And the costuming on the women and the men is also quite similar. They sort of look like the women wear sort of these old school types of tutus. They're short skirts that are sort of fluffy. So I'm just trying to give you a basic idea of what Escuela Bolera is. It is a dance style that's not super well known, not even in Spain. Usually in Spain, most dancers that study Spanish dance will go on to become flamenco dancers because it's what pays. Some of them will go on to dance with the National Ballet of Spain, where they do a combination of flamenco and classical Spanish, and then sometimes Escuela Bolera. But it's definitely, in competition with some of the folkloric dances for at least seen styles of Spanish dance. So I think it's really interesting. I'm really happy that this project got selected by Paige because we can put something that is not often seen in Spain and that probably is very rarely seen in the United States. We're able to bring it. It is absolutely spectacularly beautiful. Cristina Cazorla is one of the few dancers who actually chose to make this her style of chosen dance, and she's created a company for it. So she also dances with other Spanish companies, but this is her project. It has 5 dancers in it. And Andrew, if you want to show the clip, I'm happy to go to that.
Good. And I'm sharing here a kind of teaser of the work. There is a larger length selection that's available as well on the website.
Hello. Hello.
All right. Any final comments, Justine, before we open it up for questions?
Yes. So I just wanted to add, now that I was watching this through, that there are some elements of classical Spanish dance that make it into this show. It is predominantly Escuela Bolegado. When you see them with a hard sole shoe and the longer dresses, that's considered classical Spanish, or danza estilizada is what they call it in Spain. But it's predominantly Escuela Bolera, excuse me. So you do see a little bit of both of those classical, what are considered the classical styles of Spain in the show. But I'm happy to answer questions beyond this, and I'll mute myself so you don't have to hear everyone in the background. Oh, dates. Okay. So we are aiming for January of 2027 for a first tour, and then potentially doing a second tour for fall of 2027. There have been some people who have asked me for both of those time periods, so I think we'll be able to do 2 tours at those different ends of the 2027 year. I'm glad you're excited, Ty. Anyone else? Maybe I should also make a note that I really do think that if you work with a venue that has a strong classical music, all of this is dance to classical music. Oh, thank you, Marina. These are pieces that are dance to classical music. As you probably saw, there are similarities with ballet. So I really think if you have an audience for classical music, if you have an audience for ballet, it makes sense to bring this. This is something that they would be interested in with a little bit of a Spanish flair. And I think that's probably one of the better ways to market it. They do provide their own music. It is taped. I have had somebody ask me if they would do this with an actual live orchestra. I'm sure they would be very excited to do that. Obviously, they would have to come in a few days early, rehearse with the orchestra. But if a venue has the means to make that happen, I think that would be very exciting. But otherwise, yes, it is taped music. Easy to tour as well, in that it's 5 dancers, 1 technician, 1 tour manager, and we have no set. The set is entirely designed with lighting, but we do need a sprung floor, obviously, as you would for ballet, with Marley.
Well, let me just put your information up on the screen one last time, Justine. And we are getting to the end of the hour. Let's see, looks like there's a couple chats here. Do they require additional rehearsal space, and would they be open to offer workshops?
So they do, in their tech writer, ask to run a rehearsal. I think this might vary a little, because if you're in the middle of a tour, they're probably dancing almost every single night and may not need a rehearsal space. But we do need for setup, we do need full access to the theater for a full day. So I think it'll vary a little bit, but if you can provide some time on stage for rehearsal or an additional rehearsal space, that would be great.
Okay, well, we are at a full hour, which is what I technically scheduled for this session for. I'll just briefly hit on some dates. We are currently doing the roster artist share, the booking deadline. So you'll need to turn in letters of invitation to the agent, noting the date you're planning on booking the artist, proposed artist fee. Since you are, kind of relying on grant support, if you want to couch that fee as, $10,000 contingent on $1,000 of grant support from Mid-Atlantic Arts, that is okay to do. Though the contingency should reflect whatever your discussion around grant support has been with the agent. Once you submit those letters of invitation, the agent will send them to me. I'll review them and be back in touch with you in April, asking you to fill out a very short, very simple grant form just to confirm eligibility. In that grant form, you will need to note or just include details about your proposed community engagement activity, since that is a requirement of the program, and then formal grant awards will be sent out by Mid-Atlantic in June. So yes, I've got a question from Barbara. What is the cap of the 50% grant support? The grant is structured against the artist fee. So if you're paying an $8,000 artist fee, the grant could be up to 50% of that. I will say I do think we're going to have a lot of interest for these tours this year, and so agents may not be able to, recommend you for 50% support, because obviously everybody wants that right up front, but they might not be able to recommend that to you up front. So they may be initially talking about 30% support, something like that range, and if there end up being funds available, we'll see about increasing it for folks. Travel and visa costs are not directly covered. They are something that is kind of wrapped into the fee, or artists are also reaching out to the, and we actually are reaching out to Spanish embassies and other grant programs for additional support. We are, in this day and age, talking to everybody about premium processing for visas, since that's kind of what is required these days to get the visa back in time for any type of international tour. So just know that we are up to date on the current state of the visas. But there are no restrictions for artists from Spain and Portugal. If you need to jump off, feel free to do so. I have a few more slides here if you're new to the page program that I'm happy to continue talking are at our 1 hour. Just if you need a refresher of the program and how it works. Presenters, you really do just reach directly out to the agents for the artists that you're interested in booking. It's very similar to any kind of standard booking experience that you might have. Just part of that conversation with the agents is the grant. So it's kind of figuring out what are you able to put forth towards an artist fee, how much can the grant augment that so that it is able to cover the expenses. You're able to book incredible international artists, but are doing so at a bit of a discount thanks to the grant support. Like I said, the deadline to submit those letters is March 23rd. The grant funding is limited. So if there is an artist you're really excited about, definitely reach out as soon as possible, because it is possible that these tours, or more of them, could run out of funding prior to March 23rd. So yeah, this is kind of just a longer layout of the deadlines I shared with you on the previous slide. So Barbara, these artists are primarily going to be working on getting visas. So you cannot actually apply for a visa unless you already have booking dates. So of these artists, Birdie is the only one that currently has an active visa, and they're looking to whether extend that potentially, or if they'll need to reapply again. But otherwise, like in order to actually apply for the visa, you need so that it's, unless you have previously been touring very recently in the US, it's very the artist would have a visa. And then just moving forward, engagement activities, we talked about this, the artists kind of shared what they're kind of looking for, but this is always a conversation between the venue. If you are particularly interested in educational shows, bring that up with the agent and see what's possible. Pre or post show question and answer sessions. Those I find are often best if there is kind of a panel element where you have somebody that's coming in to initially pose a few questions to the artist, and then up to audience questions later on. Master classes, workshops. There's a lot of very interesting ways that you can go in engagement. Just make sure that whatever it is that you're planning on focusing on for the community engagement, that you talk about that with the agent so that it is all wrapped up into the artist fee. Obviously, if you're going to be doing 2 or 3 days of community engagement, the artist fee is going to need to be higher with additional support for the artists. Here are just some of the requirements of what needs to be included in that letter of invitation. Find this information on our website in our program guidelines. And then, like I mentioned, I'll be emailing folks who are taking part in the grant program in April, asking you to fill out a very short grant form. If you have any issues, don't hesitate to reach out to me. We are very responsive as a staff in that grant process. There really is not a lot of narrative in the grant form. It is just kind of submitting the performance details. You expect to have an audience of 150, 1,000, etc., and then a description of the goals you have for the community engagement activity and what that would. And then we do pay out the grant to folks ahead of the engagement. So you need to submit a signed contract to us just so that we know that the show has been contracted. And then once we get that contract, we will be paying out the grants to you. So you'll have those funds ahead of time. And lastly, there is a final report as well after the performance where you just share with us a bit about how it went, full budget for the performance, and then details about the community engagement activity. One other thing is, just since this is a federally funded grant, there is a 1-to-1 matching requirement. This is built into how the grant is structured. Since we're not able to provide support of of the artist fee, just know that the other 50% of the artist fee would need to be paid by you using other funds that are not federal. So if you have any questions about cost share matching requirements, you can send me. As far as grant restrictions, you can book multiple artists and receive grant support early, like I mentioned, as there are limited funds available. There's that matching requirement. That's me. That's my email. If you have questions, reach out to me. Thank you so much for joining the call today. Any final questions for me before I end? All right, hearing none, thanks so much for joining. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. And yeah, please reach out to agents, or as I mentioned, Justine will be at Vocal Lines. Always great to meet in person when you can. Thanks so much for joining the call, and have a wonderful rest of.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks all.